Peppa and George arrived at the adventure park. They were ready to enjoy a full day of fun. What they didn't realize was that a serious accident was quietly approaching. Peppa was even on the brink of death. The night before, a violent storm had swept through the entire town. The thunder terrified both Peppa and George. The next morning at breakfast, they were still feeling down. Grandpa Pig noticed their low spirits, so he suggested going to the adventure park to cheer them up. The idea thrilled Peppa and George. They had been wanting to go there for a long time. As soon as Peppa and George rushed into the park, they ran into Miss Rabbit. Under her guidance, Peppa and George climbed up a tall tree. When they reached the top, Peppa suddenly became afraid of heights, but she didn't want to disappoint George, so she tried hard to hide her fear. At that moment, Miss Rabbit helped secure Peppa's safety harness. Then she pushed Peppa forward. However, the storm from the night before had already damaged the rope. Before long, Peppa was left hanging in midair. She looked down and realized that if she fell, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just then, George suddenly crashed into Peppa. It turned out that Miss Rabbit had sent George onto the rope. Suddenly, the rope snapped. Peppa fell heavily into a patch of thorn bushes. Grandpa Pig quickly pulled Peppa to safety. Meanwhile, George managed to grab onto a tree branch, but because of the storm the night before, rescue workers and the ambulance were slow to arrive. George's grip gradually grew weaker. Fortunately, Grandpa Pig and Miss Rabbit found some boxes. They successfully cushioned George's fall. 3 hours later, the ambulance finally arrived. Peppa was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment.